why Ruthie and TBone ultimately would not have worked out. One, immaturity and avoidance of serious commitment. TBone showed that he wasn't ready for a serious relationship. Instead of being honest with Ruthie directly, he relied on Mac to help him break up with her through a text message. This choice reflected immaturity and avoidance, especially since the text not only went to Ruthie, but also ended up being seen by her family. Disrespect and lack of direct communication. Ending a relationship through a mass text sent by somebody else wasn't just careless, it was also showed a lack of respect for Ruthie. Healthy relationships would need open and honest communication, but TBone had avoided the uncomfortable conversation, leaving Ruthie hurt and embarrassed. Different priorities. At the end of the series, TBone chose to spend half the summer with his dad instead of working through the thing with Ruthie. While it is understandable that he wanted to spend time with his father, it made it clear Ruthie wasn't his priority. The decision highlighted that they were at different points in life with different focuses. Lack of emotional readiness. TBone's actions outsourcing the breakup, relying on others to manage his relationship decisions, choosing family reconnection over nurturing his bond with Ruthie, demonstrated that he wasn't emotionally ready for the level of commitment Ruthie might have had been looking for. Wrap up. Ultimately, Ruthie and TBone's relationship didn't work out because TBone wasn't prepared for responsibility and honesty. A real relationship required. His immaturity and poor handling of conflict and different priorities made it clear that while they cared about each other, they were not equipped to build something lasting together. His friends balance both sides and highlight Ruthie's perspectives as well. Why things didn't work out between Ruthie and TBone. TBone has immaturity and conflict. Instead of ending things directly, he leaned on Mac to send the mess a breakup text, which was not only immature but also humiliating for Ruthie, since it reached her family. Avoidance of responsibility. By outsourcing the breakup, TBone showed he wasn't ready to take ownership of his choices in the relationship. Different priorities. Choosing to spend half the summer with his dad rather than building the relationship emphasized that Ruthie wasn't his main focus. Emotional readiness. His actions made it clear he wasn't ready for a serious commitment in a relationship. Ruthie's side. High expectations for commitment. Ruthie, despite her age, often approached relationships with seriousness and high expectations. She wanted maturity and stability from TBone that he simply wasn't ready to provide. Desire for validation. Ruthie often looked for affirmation and reassurance in relationships. When TBone couldn't meet these needs, it created tension and disappointment. Stage of life differences. While both were young, Ruthie often thought and acted beyond her years, wanting depth and clarity in a relationship. TBone, on the other hand, wanted something lighter and less demanding. This mismatch created friction. Emotional intensity. Ruthie's tendency to analyze and process relationship deeply may have overwhelmed TBone, who was more casual in his approach. On TBone's immaturity and avoidance responsibility showed that he wasn't ready for that kind of relationship with Ruthie wanted. On Ruthie's end, her high expectations and intensity didn't match TBone's lighter and less committed outlook. Together, these differences made it clear they weren't compatible for the long run. In short, TBone wasn't ready to give what Ruthie wanted. Ruthie wasn't willing to settle for less. Here's the breakdown of why, in the long run, things would actually work out between Ruthie, Camden, and Martin Breyer. Why ultimately things would work out between Ruthie and Martin. Shared history and foundation. Ruthie and Martin's bond wasn't rushed. It grew over time. They lived under the same roof for a period, went through family struggles together, saw each other's flaws and strengths firsthand. A shared history gave them a stronger foundation than Ruthie had with somebody like TBone, whose relationship with her was more short-lived and immature. Maturity and growth. Martin started off immature and judgmental, especially about Sandy and Simon's choices, but at the later seasons he showed growth as a father and as a young man, taking responsibility. Ruthie, too, matured after her rebellious streak, became more grounded in her values. This parallel growth meant that by the time they circled back to each other, they were better equipped for a healthy relationship. Mutual respect. Unlike TBone, Martin genuinely respected Ruthie, didn't hide behind others to communicate with her. Their disagreements were often direct, although heated at times. They reflected a relationship where both felt their voices mattered. Ruthie respected Martin's role as a father and his decision to prioritize Anne. This showed that she could accept Martin's responsibilities without resentment. Capability and values. Both valued family deeply. Ruthie grew up in a household centered around family bonds. Martin's life was defined by his duty to his son and the Camdens who tucked him in. The shared emphasis on responsibility, family, and loyalty set them up for long-term capability. Balance personality. Ruthie's curiosity and independence and outspokenness balanced Martin's sense of duty and seriousness. She could challenge him when he was rigid, while he could ground her when she pushed boundaries. This balance created more of the kind of a push-pull that make relationships lasting without being toxic. While Ruthie and TBone's relationship highlighted maturity and mismatched priorities, Ruthie's Martin's had a long-term foundation built on shared history, evidence of growth and maturity on both sides, a strong base of mutual respect and values. Ultimately, Ruthie and Martin's relationship would work out because they understood each other on a deeper level, shared the same priorities, family, responsibilities, and loyalty, and balanced each other's strengths and flaws in ways that made them better than apart. Here's what likely breakdown of how Ruthie and TBone would ultimately break up, drawing from what we know about their dynamic at the end of Seventh Heaven. The build-up of issues. Immaturity and avoidance. TBone already showed that he wasn't ready for a serious relationship when he let Mac handle the breakup text. The lack of directness would likely resurface whenever conflicts came up. Different priorities. Ruthie wanted clarity, commitment, honesty in her relationship. TBone, on the other hand, prioritized reconnecting with his father and keeping things lighthearted. Over time, Ruthie would feel neglected. Mismatch and readiness. Ruthie tended to want more depth in relationships, while TBone wasn't prepared to meet her expectations. This mismatch would cause strain. The actual breakup. The final breakup wouldn't be explosive, but it would be disappointing. TBone would likely try to soften the blow by suggesting they take a break or see other people, avoiding full accountability. Ruthie, however, would call him out, pointing out that she needs to be mature enough to be honest and prioritize her. The breakup would likely end with Ruthie feeling hurt, but also relieved, since deep down she would recognize that TBone wouldn't give her the kind of relationship she needed. The aftermath. TBone would feel guilty but somewhat freed, as the pressure of living up to Ruthie's expectations would be lifted. Ruthie would have moved forward more quickly, realizing she was ready for somebody more stable and responsible, like Martin later on. Their breakup would also close out their arc by showing that every teen romance is meant to last, especially when one partner isn't ready for the level of commitment the other expects. Ruthie and TBone's ultimate breakup would come down to immaturity, avoidance, and different priorities. TBone wouldn't end things in a cool way, but his indirectness would hurt Ruthie. In the end, it would be a relationship that fizzled, not because of lack of care, but because TBone simply wasn't ready to meet Ruthie where she was. Here's how the story would naturally unfold, picking up the series finale with an inevitable breakup with TBone. How the Martin would ultimately get together, time and distance after TBone. As we with TBone, Ruthie takes some time to focus on herself, school, and her family. She reflects on what she truly wants in a partner: honesty, maturity, and somebody who respects her independence. Meanwhile, Martin continues to grow as a father to Anne. His life revolves around responsibility, but he also is aware that he wants companionship and somebody who understands his priorities. Recommended reconnection through shared history. Since the Camdens were essentially Martin's second family, he and Ruthie would remain in each other's orbit. At first, it was casual family dinners, church events, and helping out with Anne. These moments remind Ruthie that Martin always had been a steady presence in her life. She was there for him during his struggles with Sandy and fatherhood. He was there for her as she grew up. The shift from friendship to something more. The dynamic shifts gradually. Martin begins to notice Ruthie not as a kid sister in the Cannon house, but as a young woman who challenges and supports him. Ruthie too begins to see Martin differently, not just as Anne's dad or a guy who used to live with them, but as somebody dependable, loyal, and deeply tied to her family values that mirrored her own. The confession. Relations likely changed during a quiet personal moment, perhaps after a long conversation about life, responsibility, and how far they both came. Okay. Martin admits he always cared for Ruthie, but the timing and circumstances kept them apart. Ruthie confessed that she wanted something more with him in the past, but didn't think it was possible. Unlike TBone's immaturity, Martin is straightforward and honest. He tells Ruthie what he wants to see where things can go, building something real. They didn't jump into romance recklessly. Instead, they ease into dating and are mindful of Martin's responsibility as a father and Ruthie's own ambitions. The shared foundation of family respect and loyalty makes relationships stronger than Ruthie's past flings. Eventually, Ruthie becomes an important part of Anne's life too, showing she's not just a girlfriend isn't just a girlfriend, but somebody Martin can truly build a future with. Wrap up. Ruthie and Martin ultimately would get together because they had a deep history that evolved into maturity. Ruthie moved on from TBone's immaturity and sought somebody who shared her own values. Martin grew into his own responsibilities and became the kind of partner Ruthie could trust. Their romance wouldn't be forced. It grew naturally from a friendship and respect. Timing finally being on their side. What if Martin and Ruthie started dating after TBone? The breakup with TBone still happens through Max text. Immature, indirect, embarrassing. But this time, the text actually goes to Martin as well as Ruthie and her family. Martin sees firsthand the way TBone handled things. It reinforces to him that TBone was never ready for Ruthie. This creates some sympathy in Martin for Ruthie, who didn't deserve that kind of treatment. Importantly, Ruthie is not the one who initiates the breakup. She's on the receiving end, which make Martin protective of her. Martin not involved with Jane. In this timeline, Martin isn't romantically tied to Jane. He'll be still focused on Anne and figuring out his future, but he isn't tied down or distracted by another relationship. This clears up space for him to notice Ruthie in a new light without any lingering romantic obligations. Comfort and support. After the breakup, Martin becomes a source of comfort for Ruthie. He checks in on her, reassures her that she deserves somebody better, offers a steady presence when she feels embarrassed or hurt about how things ended with TBone. Their bond deepens as Martin takes time to listen, and Ruthie starts to appreciate his maturity compared to TBone's immaturity. The shift to romance. The turning point comes when Ruthie and Martin spend all time together in a casual setting. Family dinners and helping Anne or even hanging out. The conversation shifts from friendly to more personal. Martin always respects Ruthie's strength and independence, while Ruthie acknowledges she feels safer and more understood with Martin than she ever did with TBone, starting to date. Unlike her rushed relationship with TBone, Ruthie and Martin approach dating thoughtfully. Martin makes it clear he doesn't want to play games. If they are going to be together, he wants it to be real. Ruthie is still stunned by the immaturity. The breakup of TBone values Martin's honesty and seriousness. The relationship begins with a mutual respect, shared family values, and understanding that they both growing up into adulthood. Wrap up. In this scenario, Ruthie and Martin started dating because the breakup text Vanessa showed Martin how poorly Ruthie was treated, pulling him closer to her. With no Jane in the picture, Martin was free to focus on Ruthie. Ruthie found in Martin the maturity and stability and respect that TBone lacked. Their romance would grow naturally from support and shared history, and not from impulse. This is an interesting angle. It shows dynamics because of Martin's loyalty to Ruthie and also his friendship with Mac. Here's how it would play out. Martin's initial reaction. When Martin finds out that it was Mac who crafted and sent the breakup text, he would feel betrayed not only on Ruthie's behalf but also as personally. Martin values honesty and responsibility, even if he was judgmental in his earlier days. To see his best friend stoop so low, hurting Ruthie in the process, would create tension between them. Conflict with Mac. Martin would confront Mac directly. The friendship always been rooted in banter, but this would cross the line. He would likely tell Mac that involving himself in somebody else's breakup, especially in such a cowardly way, was immature and cruel. Mac might try to downplay it, but Martin wouldn't laugh it off. He would make it clear that Ruthie deserved respect, and Mac's help would cause unnecessary pain. Closer bond with Ruthie. This moment would make Martin more protective of Ruthie. Seeing her embarrassed by both TBone and Mac would push him to step in as a steady, supportive presence. Ruthie would notice Martin's loyalty. He not only defending her, but also holding his own friend accountable. That builds trust between them. His relationship with Mac, Martin's friendship with Mac wouldn't necessarily end, but there would be a rift. Martin might distance himself until Mac shows some more growth and maturity with Ruthie. The breakup fiasco ironically creates an opportunity for Ruthie and Martin to connect. Ruthie begins to see Martin not just as a friend, but as somebody who genuinely respects her and values her. The path of romance. After witnessing Mac and TBone's immaturity, Martin's maturity and stability would stand out even more to Ruthie. Over time, the shared experience becomes a turning point. Ruthie realizing that Martin was that kind of guy she should have been with all along. Eventually, it would lead them from friendship to something deeper, with Martin proving he's not only a partner, but somebody who will stand up for her. If Martin knew Mac helped TBone with a breakup with Ruthie, he would feel betrayed and called out his best friend. The incident would push him closer to Ruthie as he would defend and give respect. Her the respect she didn't get from TBone. Mac's maturity would contrast sharply with Martin's maturity, making it clear to Ruthie who is the better match. Here's how things might have unfolded if the series ended with Ruthie choosing Martin instead of TBone. The shift in choice. Instead of letting things drift with TBone, Ruthie decides to end things before they really settle. She realizes TBone's maturity, needing Mac's help dodging hard conversations and trying to figure himself out, and realizes he isn't what she truly is looking for. Ruthie gravitates towards Martin, who, even with his own flaws, has proven to be more dependable and responsible and connects to family values. Why Martin makes sense. Shared history. Ruthie and Martin had lived together, faced the family struggles together, built trust 3 years of knowing each other. That foundation was stronger than her brief romance with TBone. Maturity gap. Martin would have already faced the responsibilities of fatherhood. Ruthie would respect his growth, while TBone's immaturity frustrated her. Respecting communication. Martin was more direct, while TBone hid behind Mac's words. Ruthie would have judged the partner who showed her more real honesty. If Ruthie chose Martin, TBone would be hard, but only would reflect what was already true. He wasn't ready for her. The breakup would sting, but it wouldn't be shocking. It might have pushed TBone towards self-reflection and showing him he couldn't rely on others like Mac to handle his relationships. The beginning of Ruthie and Martin. The choice would have set Ruthie and Martin on the path towards something lasting. The relationship would have started slowly. Ruthie still finishing high school, Martin balancing Aaron, but they make it work because of their deep respect and history. Instead of ending the series on an untrue note with TBone, the show would have closed Ruthie's arc with her realizing she deserved someone who truly respected and matched her, Martin. Family reaction. The Camden would likely approve of Ruthie choosing Martin. He already was like family. Eric and Annie respected him for stepping up as a father. They see Martin as a healthier and more mature partner for Ruthie than TBone ever was. If Ruthie had chosen Martin over TBone in the series, it would have been a natural progression of their long history. TBone's maturity would have made the choice easier to justify. The Camdens would have supported it, seeing Martin as a better fit. Ruthie's arc would have ended with her choosing stability, respect, and maturity over immaturity and avoidance. God, what we imagine what if timeline where Ruthie and Martin dated in high school, started her breakup with Vincent. Starting point after Vincent. After Ruthie and Vincent break up, Ruthie was more cautious about dating. She wants honesty and stability and not games. Around this time, Martin had been living with the Camdens, and his presence in Ruthie's life is steady. The friendship shifts as Martin sees Ruthie maturing, and Ruthie begins to notice Martin differently. Instead of pursuing TBone later, Ruthie and Martin start dating while still in high school. Would Martin still become a teen child? Yes, Martin would likely still end up as a teen and father, because the storyline was more his choice and responsibility than who he was dating. The difference is, if Ruthie was already dating him when it happened, she would have been there to support him through the shock and the adjustment. Instead of causing a wedge between them, Aaron would have become something that strengthened the relationship, as Ruthie would have shown maturity by standing by Martin. During dating in high school, Ruthie and Martin would have faced challenges, Ruthie balancing normal teenage life and Martin juggling fatherhood. But Ruthie always wanted to be treated with respect and honesty, would have admired Martin for stepping up to his responsibilities. Martin, in return, would respect Ruthie for not running away when things got complicated. Unlike TBone, who immaturity lacks commitment and destroyed the relationship, Ruthie and Martin's relationship would be built on a foundation of respect, shared family values, and history. They grew up together, navigating college and parenthood and adulthood responsibilities side by side. Their shared connection to the Camden family would keep them grounded forever, but not break up. If they had studied in high school, the bond would have been deeper than the series hinted at. Ruthie would become a stable stepmother figure to Aaron as the relationship solidified, as Martin would fully support them as a couple. Instead of drifting apart like so many teenage couples, their shared struggles and loyalty would glue them together long term. Wrap up. If Ruthie and Martin started dating in high school after Vincent, Martin would still likely be a teenage dad, but Ruthie would stand by him instead of causing distance. Asian would have tested early, but Ruthie's maturity and Martin's sense of responsibility would allow them to grow stronger. They end up together forever, partners not just in romance, but in raising Aaron and building a future rooted in family loyalty. That's a great what if, because Sandy was a huge factor in Martin. Let's imagine how things would look if Ruthie and Martin dated in high school and they became teen parents together, and there's no Sandy in the picture at all. The early relationship. After Ruthie's breakup with Vincent, she and Martin started dating. The bond was already strong because of the years of living under the same roof, aligning each other. When Ruthie became pregnant, the news shocked both families. But unlike Martin's canon story with Sandy, there's no distance or denial. Ruthie's already his girlfriend, so they face it together. Family reaction. The Camdens, Eric, and Annie would be disappointed, but they wouldn't turn their backs on Ruthie or Martin. They'd push for responsibility and support Ruthie emotionally and help with child care when needed. Martin's side, his military father might react more harshly at first, but seeing Martin taking responsibility and the Camdens supporting them would soften his stance. Martin's growth. In the real series, Martin's fatherhood arc was about him learning to step up after initially denying responsibility with Sandy. In this alternate path, he doesn't have the option of denial. Ruthie is his girlfriend and the mother of his child. This accelerated Martin's maturity. Instead of pulling away from Ruthie, he commits even harder to her, to raising their child. Ruthie's growth. Ruthie, although young, has always been outspoken, independent teenage motherhood who would force her to grow up faster. But she would raise up to the challenge with Martin by her side. Unlike TBone, she would never feel like she was carrying the relationship on her own. Martin's sense of responsibility would match hers. When they stay together, yes, the match is much more likely than the canon story. Here's right. Shared responsibility. Instead of another girl, Sandy could between them. Ruthie and Martin would face the challenge as a united couple. Family support. With the Camden stability behind them, and they would have a strong safety net. Foundational bound. The relationship isn't a fling. It is rooted in the years of friendship, trust, and mutual respect. They would face struggles, school, parenting, financial stress, but their shared commitment and the fact that Martin already very family responsibility would keep them together. The long-term outlook. At the time they reached adulthood, Ruthie and Martin would have not only survived the challenge of teen parenthood, but also grown stronger together. The child would be surrounded by love, with Ruthie and Martin as the core family, in the canon's extended support system. Instead of Martin drifting away, as happened with Sandy, he would solidify anchored with Ruthie, creating a future built on loyalty and shared history. Wrapped up. If Ruthie and Martin dated in high school, and continued without Sandy in the picture, their bond would deepen because they'd first parenthood together, not apart. Martin's maturity and Ruthie's complement each other. With Martin's family support, they would overcome the struggles of a teenage adulthood. Unlike Martin, Sandy and Ruthie and Martin would likely stay together for life. But the end of it gives Ruthie the drama of high school women without actual teenage pregnancy twist. Here's how it might play out. The breakup with Meredith. Martin begins realizing his bond with Ruthie goes deeper than Meredith. Living in the Camden's home, he's around Ruthie constantly, and his feelings grow stronger. Instead of dragging things out, Martin decides to enter his relationship with Martha. Respectfully, but clearly, he wants to be with Ruthie and doesn't want to hide his feelings. The rumor starts. Meredith's sister, Kelly, upset on Meredith's behalf, lashes out. She spreads the rumor that Ruthie is pregnant with Martin's child. Martin cheated on Meredith with Ruthie. Neither of these things are true. Martin ended things with Meredith before pursuing Ruthie. Ruthie is not pregnant, but in high school, rumors spread fast and damaged reputations. Ruthie's reaction. Ruthie's humiliated and angry. She already struggled with being the youngest Camden and often misunderstood. To have her reputation smeared like this makes her feel judged and isolated. At first, she might have pulled away from Martin, wondering if being with him was worth the fallout. Martin's response. This is where Martin shows his maturity. Instead of denying Ruthie or distancing himself, he takes a stand. He makes it clear to their peers that he did not cheat on Meredith. He defends Ruthie publicly, refusing to let the rumor define her. He reassures Ruthie privately that he trusts her because he can't let her. Not because of gossip or drama. The fallout with Meredith. Meredith feels hurt, but over time, she realizes Martin didn't cheat. The real damage came from her sister Kelly's rumor. While things never truly heal between Ruthie and Meredith, the truth eventually surfaces. Meredith's sisters, Kelly, however, is painted as the villain who tried to destroy her reputations out of spite. Ruthie and Martin together. Going through this early child actually strengthens Ruthie and Martin's relationship. They lean on each other, defend each other, block out outside noise. Instead of being torn apart by the drama, they come out stronger. A united front against gossip and judgment. Wrap up. If Martin ended his relationship with Meredith to be with Ruthie, and Meredith spread these false rumors, Ruthie would have struggled at first under the weight of judgment, but Martin's loyalty would keep her grounded. The truth would eventually come out, clearing Ruthie's name and showing Martin never cheated. The ordeal would strengthen Ruthie and Martin's relationship, proving that they could handle the pressure together. They would emerge as a couple built on honesty and loyalty, resilience, and not gossip. Oh, that's a twist. Ruthie's stoic. TBone's immaturity and Martin stepping up as a person who values it. Here's how the scenario would play out. What if Ruthie got dumped on the RV trip? The breakup text. During the RV trip, after the series, Ruthie's on the phone pings with a text. It is not just to her, but it's to everyone she knows, her family, her friends, and even Sandy and Martin. The text reveals that TBone had been seeing another girl during the second half of the summer while with his dad. He uses her to help him craft the breakup message, making it even more cruel and humiliating than before. Ruthie is devastated not just because of the betrayal, but because the breakup is public and spreading her pain to her circle. The fallout. The Camdens are protective, but they are also shocked at TBone's immaturity. Eric and Annie sees it as he was never right for Ruthie. Sandy feels sympathy for Ruthie. She knows how hard it is to deal with the fallout of a teenage relationship and reputations. But the person most affected by the text besides Ruthie is Martin. Seeing Ruthie treated that way enrages him. Martin immediately reaches out. Instead of offering cliche or pity, he gets Ruthie the honest as her heart. He tells her none of this is her fault. He calls out TBone's cowardness and disrespect. He makes sure she knows she deserves somebody who values her, not somebody who cheats and hides behind others. Martin also shields her from the gossip, standing up for her whenever the rumor wheel starts spinning. The shift to immense. In Ruthie's lowest moment, Martin's loyalty and steadiness shine through. Unlike TBone, Martin has always respected her, even when they argued. Ruthie begins to see Martin not just as her friend or a canon brother figure, but as somebody who truly sees her worth. Martin, already aware of his feelings for Ruthie, realizes the time has to come to honest. The relationship became not as a dramatic confession, but with Martin simply being there. Long talks on the RV trip, quiet moments where Ruthie leans on him, and Martin's consistency all lead to something more. When Ruthie is ready, Martin tells her he doesn't just want to comfort her, he wants to be with her. Ruthie, tired of maturity and betrayal, recognizes that Martin is actually what she's been searching for: respect, stability, and if Ruthie gets someone on the RV trip via another public breakup text, this time with the cheating involved, it would devastate her at first, but also show her the truth about TBone's immaturity. Martin's comfort, loyalty would make him stand out as a complete opposite of TBone. The relationship would grow naturally out of the moment, leading to Ruthie and Martin finally becoming a couple. Instead of ending on a heartbreak, Ruthie's story would shift towards hope, finding love with somebody who truly valued her. Oh, an interesting twist. This blends earlier rumor arc with a higher stakes outcome, turning gossip into truth. Here's how it would unfold. What if the rumor about Ruthie being pregnant with Martin was real? Martin wakes up with Meredith. Just like before, Martin realizes his heart with Ruthie, not Meredith. He ends his relationship clearly, but Meredith's sister Kelly is furious and lashes out. To get back at Ruthie and Martin, Kelly spreads a rumor at school that Ruthie is pregnant with Martin's baby. The twist this time is true. At first, everyone assumes it's just Kelly stirring up trouble, but the rumor spreads fast and causes drama for Ruthie's reputation. However, unlike the false rumor version, this time Ruthie is really pregnant, and she and Martin started dating in secret after his breakup with Meredith. And the timeline lines up. Eric and Annie are shocked and disappointed, but their love for Ruthie is unconditional. They push for responsibility and honesty, which is like they did with Matt and Simon during their tough choices. Martin's side. His military father reacts harshly, with Martin threw his future away. But Martin, who already has a strong sense of responsibility, insists to step up. Instead of running away from the situation, Martin publicly claims responsibility and defends Ruthie against Tilly's gossip. He makes it clear he broke up with Myth before anything happened with Ruthie. The pregnancy isn't scandalous cheating. It's scandalous cheating. It is a challenge they face together. Ruthie's growth. Ruthie, who often struggled to be taken seriously as the youngest Camden, now has to grow up quickly. She proves independence and strength. Bound in school, motherhood, and the judgment of peers. With Martin's help, she finds her voice and resilience. The relationship. Being a teenage parent is hard. There are late nights and financial stresses and arguments, but unlike Martin's canon story with Sandy, where the distance and immaturity pulled them away, Ruthie and Martin face the challenge as a couple. Their shared history and their love for each other helps them weather the storm. Over time, they become not just teenage parents, but true partners. Kelly's downfall. Kelly's attempt to ruin Ruthie and Martin's relationship backfires. Once it becomes clear the rumor is real, and Martin standing by Ruthie, Kelly looks petty and malicious. Instead of breaking them apart, the rumor makes Ruthie and Martin stronger. Wrap up. If the rumor about Ruthie being pregnant was real, it would create an immediate drama and judgment. Also force both Ruthie and Martin to grow up fast. Martin would prove his maturity by sending Ruthie by denying her for the baby. The Camdens would support them as they navigate teenage parenthood. Instead of the scandal that destroyed them, the rumor would become the foundation for a lifetime partnership between Ruthie and Martin. Here is a parallel universe comparison of Martin's teen parent storyline have happened in canon with Sandy versus the alternate version with Ruthie. Canon, Sandy and Martin. The relationship. Martin gets involved with Sandy casually, unexpectedly becomes their father. He isn't in love with her. The relationship is more about obligation than romance. Alternate. Ruthie plus Martin. The relationship. Martin breaks up with Meredith and starts dating Ruthie seriously. The relationship grows from years of history and friendship. So when Ruthie becomes pregnant, there's already a strong foundation of trust and care. The pregnancy reveal. Martin struggles with denial at first, distancing himself emotionally from Sandy and the baby. He is scared and unsure. The pregnancy reveal, the rumor spread by Kelly, forces the truth out. But instead of hiding, Martin immediately stands by Ruthie. He admits they are together and accepts responsibility without hesitation. Family reaction. Eric and Annie are supportive but disappointed. Sandy relies more on her family, while Martin feels torn between the Camden's expectations and his father's disappointment. Family reaction. Eric and Annie rally behind Ruthie and Martin, offering emotional and practical support. Martin's father is harsh at first, but Martin's loyalty to Ruthie softens over time. The Camden's involvement anchors the couple. Martin's growth. He takes on responsibility, but at a distance, copying in while trying to live his own life. His immaturity shows in how he avoids deeper commitment to Sandy. Martin's growth. Martin grows faster because Ruthie's his girlfriend and the mother of his child. He don't separate his roles, boyfriend, father, partner, as he commits fully to Ruthie and their baby, becoming more dependable and grounded. Ruthie's role. In canon, Ruthie watches from the sidelines, feeling distanced from Martin by his new responsibilities and Sandy's presence. Ruthie's role. Instead of being sidelined, Ruthie is the center of Martin's story. She matures quickly, balancing motherhood and school, and her independence and shines. She and Martin become a true team. Drama, conflict. Sandy and Martin never had a true romance, so its tension lingers and goes up with co-parents who care but aren't together. Drama, conflict, high school, rumors, teenage parenthood causes stress, but Ruthie and Martin's shared loyalty and history helps them overcome it. The kids grow up in a loving home with both parents together. Long-term outcome: Martin is forever tied to Sandy through Anne, but they don't end up together as a couple. His arc is about responsibility, not romance. Long-term outcome: Ruthie and Martin stay together. The love story deepens through shared challenges, and they build a lasting relationship. Their arc becomes one of both responsibility and love. Wrap up. In canon, Martin's teenage dad story, with Sandy kept entitled to responsibility, but without romantic fulfillment. Ruthie was left on the outside of his arc. In the alternate universe, this rumor was true, and Ruthie is the mother of Martin's baby. It would weave her directly into Martin's journey. Instead of being sidelined, Ruthie becomes Martin's partner in both love and responsibility. They end up staying together forever.